Welcome everybody to a lesson on some quantitative expressions, quantitative vocabulary. So I've put some adjectives on this line, starting with very, very small and finishing with very, very big. And all of these adjectives are useful to describe quantities. They all work very well with number of, and I want you to all remember that a number of is countable. It's very important for this topic to separate countable and uncountable expressions. And so a number of is countable and an amount of is uncountable. But you can talk about a tiny amount of, a minute amount of, a negligible amount of, or a small number of, an insignificant number of, an underwhelming number of, an average number of, a substantial number of, a large number of, a considerable number of, a significant number of, a vast amount of, or a vast number of. Most of these words work with number and amount, a vast amount of, a huge amount of, a considerable amount of time, a large amount of money, a substantial amount of money. So most of these words will work with number or amount, but these will show very small numbers or amounts, and these very big. So please do use these adjectives to improve the description of, for example, graphs in your IELTS exam, things like that. You very often have to describe a graph, and so that will be very useful vocabulary if that's what you're doing. Now, we do also use some other adjectives. You can talk about a record number of candidates have applied for the job, and that means more candidates than ever before, more candidates than have ever been recorded. So a record is bigger than ever before. So a record number of candidates have applied for the job, or you might say an unprecedented number of candidates, and that means we've never had this many before, so it's the same. Unprecedented means that it hasn't been seen before. If a particular policy is unprecedented, it means no government has ever created this policy before. It is unprecedented. Nothing came before it. That's what it means. Okay, you could say a limited number of candidates. Why not? And you can also talk about limited amounts. A good word here to remember when you want to really emphasize that it's a large number and a surprisingly large number, the sheer number of candidates. And this one, sheer, will only work when you've got the definite article with number. You can't talk about a sheer number. It will only work with the sheer number of candidates that have applied for this job is tremendous, shocking, surprising, incredible, something like that. And you are emphasizing that the number was much bigger than you expected. And you can certainly say the sheer amount of time that I have devoted to this task, and it means so much time I have devoted to this task. So do remember this word sheer to say a surprising number of, or a surprising amount of, and a surprisingly large number of, surprisingly large amount of. So you can certainly say the sheer number of candidates that have applied for this job was staggering, something like that. And you can certainly talk about a staggering number of, or a tremendous number of, or a staggering amount of, or a tremendous amount of. So they both go down this end, those two adjectives. And these other adjectives work as well. The approximate number of candidates was 50. The estimated number of candidates was 50. And notice that the number of is singular. The number of candidates is 50. But a number of means a lot of. It's a determiner, a number of. And so a number of means a lot of, and that's why it's plural. A number of students have applied, plural. But the number of students that have applied is 50. So the estimated number works. The total number, if you want to say all in all, the overall number works very well. The overall number of candidates that have applied for this position was 121. The exact number was 121. The precise number was 121. And there's no way you will say an exact number or a precise number. Why? Because a number of means a lot of. The number of is referring to one number. So it's going to always be the precise number, the exact number, just like it'll always be the sheer number, okay? Now these verbs work very well with the number of, yeah, so they collocate with number. You can double the number of students, increase the number of students, raise the number of students, cut the number of students, obviously this is all decreasing now, limit the number of students, reduce the number of students, decrease the number of students. All of those words work well with number. Numbers of students can double, numbers of teachers can grow. Numbers of protesters could rise. So house prices could skyrocket, but certainly numbers can skyrocket too. So notice that they are all getting bigger, but numbers can also plummet, yeah, drop quickly. Numbers can fall, and yeah, drop works here as well. Numbers can drop, numbers can plummet, which means drop very, very quickly. Numbers can decline, yeah. Maybe you're talking about staff members, yeah. The number of staff members has dropped, the number of staff members has declined, the number of staff members has dwindled. Dwindle means get smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you want to say the number, it's not quite as drastic, as dramatic as plummet. Yeah, and do talk about a dramatic increase, or that the word dramatic works very well with increase, a dramatic increase in the price of something, yeah, a dramatic increase. Okay, so yeah, you talk about numbers have dropped, numbers have declined, numbers have fallen, numbers have dwindled, they've got much smaller, and that's not as quick as plummet. Okay, you could also say that numbers have fluctuated, if you want to say, you know, up and down, they've fluctuated. Numbers differ every year. You know, one year we get 50 students, the next year we get 70. So numbers differ every year. Numbers vary every year. And you can also say the number of students attending my classes is approaching, yeah, and I'll put it like that. Number of students attending my classes is approaching, or approaches. You could do it in present simple. The number of students attending my classes approaches 100. Or something like that. Or the number of students attending the classes exceeds 100. Or it has reached 100. Yeah, so you can use these words to describe how numbers reach certain levels, or exceed certain levels, or approach, get closer to certain levels. Now, numbers can double, numbers can triple, numbers can quadruple. Numbers can increase by a factor of 5, and that means multiplied by 5. Remember, this is multiplied by 5, or times. A lot of kids will say 5 times 5 is 25, and they mean 5 multiplied by 5